Kevin Stfansky? Gone. As in cleared out. Escorted from the facility. Box of office belongings and all. And the reason? Shedeur. Freaking. Sanders. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about pride, power, politics, and perception. This is about who controls the future of the Browns, and how one rookie quarterback drafted in the 5th round and labeled a project just toppled a regime. Let's walk through it. Kevin Stfansky, once seen as the level-headed strategist.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The grown-up in the room in a franchise known for its dysfunction just got undone by a series of self-inflicted wounds. And the final blow? Apparently, a set of deeply tone-deaf comments about Shedeur Sanders that got back to ownership, specifically GM Andrew Berry, and set off a firestorm behind the scenes. Sources read, everyone with eyes and ears in Berea, say Stfansky had been privately questioning Shedeur's professionalism, reportedly expressing skepticism about his brand-first attitude, and suggesting, multiple times, that the team was forcing something that wasn't ready. Translation, he didn't believe in the kid. And he wanted people to know it. Now, normally, internal disagreements don't lead to a pink slip mid-season. But this situation? This wasn't normal. Not even close. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a movement. A symbol of the future. Of cultural relevance. Of a new generation of athletes who know their value, who build their brand, and, here's the kicker, who can ball out and lead a locker room better than most of the league's blue-chip QBs. And when Stfansky, knowing full well the tension, the public sentiment, the recent success under Shedeur, doubled down behind closed doors, Andrew Berry said enough. Let's pause here for a second. Because firing your head coach mid-season is already nuclear. But firing him because of tension with a rookie quarterback? That's unheard of. That's history-making. That's culture-shifting. That's a message. And the message is loud and clear. This team belongs to Shedeur now. No more debates. No more QB politics. No more coded language about readiness, or system fit, or he needs to wait his turn. Shedeur Sanders isn't just the starter. He's the franchise. And Kevin Stfansky? He just found out what happens when you go to war with the future and bring outdated assumptions with you. Now let's be real, this wasn't just about one comment. This was a build-up. A slow-motion collapse. Because for weeks, Stfansky had been losing the room. The Dylan Gabriel favoritism. The strange rotations. The weird pressers where he seemed half-hearted about Shedeur's development. The awkward body language after that forced pre-game apology? Yeah, everyone saw it. Players, staff, media. And the cherry on top? The receipts. Stfansky's private concerns about Shedeur's leadership, his nil deals, his family influence, leaked faster than a blocked punt. You can't call a young QB immature while he's out prepping your veterans. You can't shade his brand when he's the only thing bringing national attention and money into your building. You can't criticize his name when he's outperforming your hand-picked starter with half the resources. Andrew Berry knew that. He saw the franchise fracturing. The locker room was splitting, players choosing sides, offense and defense quietly divided, rookies caught in the crossfire. And the tipping point? A quarterback room that no longer trusted its own coach. So Berry made the hardest call of his executive career. And let's be clear, it was a call. Don't believe the mutually parted ways PR spin. This was a firing. And it was personal. Because it wasn't about the win-loss record. It wasn't about a missed playoff run. It was about the culture. The Browns are no longer trying to survive the season. They're trying to evolve. And Stfansky? He was stuck in the old ways. Rigid. Conservative. Afraid of the unknown. Afraid of a quarterback who didn't look like the ones he was used to building around. Afraid of a guy with charisma, confidence, and cameras following him, not because of ego but because of excellence. Shedeur Sanders was never the problem. He was the mirror. The reflection of a system that still punishes black quarterbacks for being loud, being marketable, being visible. He didn't break the rules, he just made the people who built them uncomfortable. And now the Browns are finally ready to build around him instead of against him. Let's talk about Andrew Berry for a second because this is his defining moment. By firing Stfansky, Berry didn't just choose a quarterback. He chose a direction. He chose now over later. He chose vision over tradition. And yes, he chose truth over comfort. Because everyone knew what was happening in Cleveland. The slow-drip disrespect. The quiet sidelining. The passive-aggressive coaching. It wasn't just bad optics. It was a leadership crisis. And Barry fixed it the only way you can, by removing the obstacle. You want to talk about guts? This is a GM betting it all on a 5th-round pick with starter energy, starter production, and, now, franchise control. That's not just bold. That's visionary. So what happens next? Well, for starters, the interim head coach will be under immense pressure not to screw this up. The offense will remain tailored to Shedeur's strengths. The team will rally around the energy of a fresh start. And fans? They'll flood the stadium like it's 1999 all over again. Because nothing wakes up a franchise like clarity. The Browns finally have a clear direction, and it's not just about wins and losses anymore. It's about transformation. It's about killing off the old Cleveland and birthing something new, something fast, fearless, and future-focused. And let's not forget the league. Because other front offices are watching this unfold and they're learning fast. You cannot undervalue talent just because it comes with swagger. You cannot suppress a quarterback just because his name echoes through pop culture. And you cannot lead a modern NFL team while clinging to narratives that should have died 10 years ago. Shedeur Sanders is more than a quarterback. He's a cultural shift in cleats. And with Kevin Stfansky out of the building, he's also undisputed QB1. So here we are. The coach is gone. The future is here. And Cleveland, for the first time in a long time, looks like a team that actually believes in its own potential. But this is only the beginning. The pressure is now on Andrew Barry to get the next hire right. To build a coaching staff that can amplify Shedeur, not box him in. To turn this moment from a statement into a movement. Because if they get it wrong, this could go down as just another chapter in the Browns' long history of self-inflicted disaster. But if they get it right, if they finally build around their quarterback the way other franchises do without hesitation, then Cleveland doesn't just have a star. They've got a revolution. So what do you think? Did Barry make the right call? Was Stfansky really the problem, or just the scapegoat? And is Shedeur Sanders ready to carry this entire franchise on his back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love quarterback chaos, leadership collapses, and watching old-school mindsets get dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century, you're going to want to subscribe. Because when the smoke clears and the headlines fade, one thing will still be echoing across Cleveland, louder than the dog pound on 3rd and long. Shedeur Sanders got a coach fired. Not through tantrums. Not through tweets. Not through scandals or holdouts. No. He did it the old-fashioned way, by being better than the system expected him to be. By being undeniable. By showing up, day after day, and making it impossible for the Browns to keep pretending he wasn't the answer. And now that the guy who stood in his way is out, there's no more excuses. No more not ready. No more we'll reevaluate next week. It's Shedeur's team now. And while that might scare the old heads still clinging to the idea that leadership looks like a clipboard and a monotone post-game presser, to the rest of us, it's about time. Because let's be honest, what Shedeur Sanders represents isn't just a new quarterback. It's a new quarterback prototype. Gone are the days when QBs were expected to be faceless robots. Gone are the days when being coachable meant shrinking your personality to fit inside a box built by someone who doesn't understand you. Gone are the days when waiting your turn was a virtue instead of a cover for lazy coaching. Shedeur is smart, confident, marketable. And yes, he comes with a name that carries weight. But here's the thing about legacy, it doesn't throw touchdowns for you. He's earned every snap, every locker room nod, every second chance that should have been a first. So if Kevin Stfansky couldn't see that, he's not the victim here. He's the lesson. The NFL is shifting. Fast. And if you're not adapting, you're out. Let's talk about what this means inside that building because oh boy, the vibe shift is seismic. You think guys in that locker room didn't feel the weight of Stefanski's side eye when Shedeur was dominating in practice but still running scout team? You think the offense didn't sense the weird tension in the room every time Shedeur's name came up in meetings? The players knew. They knew the energy was off. They knew Shedeur was ready. And now that the head coach is gone, they're going to rally around him like never before. Not just because he's talented, but because he endured it. He absorbed the slights, the hesitation, the subtle devaluing of his work. And instead of snapping, he stayed locked in. And when he finally got the call-up, he delivered. That kind of quiet resilience? That doesn't just earn you a starting job. It earns you followers. And if there's one thing Shedeur Sanders has proved time and again, it's that he's not just here to play. He's here to lead. Which brings us to the front office. Because don't think Andrew Barry made this move lightly. You don't just fire your head coach mid-season and hitch your reputation to a rookie without doing the math. This wasn't a gamble. It was a calculation. Barry looked at Shedeur's tape. He looked at the locker room. He looked at the long list of quarterback flops that have come and gone through Cleveland like a cursed carousel. And he said, "This stops now. Because this, right here, is the moment where a franchise decides whether it's going to stay broken or finally break free." And Barry made his choice. He bet on the quarterback with the highest ceiling the Browns have had in decades. Not the guy with the best combine score. Not the guy with the quietest off-field persona. The guy who galvanizes people. The guy who moves the room just by walking in it. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, good. Because comfort is what got Cleveland stuck in this cycle of almost greatness and constant regression. Comfort is what allowed coaches to keep their jobs while the quarterback room turned into a revolving door. Comfort is safe. Comfort is stale. And Shedeur Sanders? He's neither. So what happens now? Well, first, the interim coach dance begins. Expect a lot of press conference buzzwords. Culture reset. Player-first approach. Building around strengths. But behind the scenes, everyone in the building knows, you're here to protect the QB. Period. You don't get fancy. You don't tinker. You don't outsmart yourself. You build the offense around what Shedeur does best. You give him a line that doesn't fold after 2 seconds. You give him playmakers that actually run routes with purpose. And you give him a coordinator who's not afraid to let him cook. Because the worst thing this organization could do now is micromanage him. He doesn't need guardrails. He needs a runway. And if you give him that, there's no telling how high this kid can fly. Let's not forget what he's already survived. A coach who didn't believe in him, a league that overlooked him, a draft system that seemed determined to bury him behind lesser talent with better fit. Add to that the constant scrutiny of being Deion Sanders' son, with every throw dissected for signs of nepotism, and every misstep magnified like a national scandal? It's a miracle Shedeur hasn't exploded. Instead, he's turned every slight into fuel. And now that the organization has finally cleared the runway, he's ready to take off. And while the spotlight burns hot, while every analyst and talking head prepares to jump on the first sign of struggle, Shedeur's already ahead of them. He's been living in the spotlight his whole life. He's media-trained, battle-tested, and built for pressure. The question isn't whether he can handle the moment. The question is whether the Browns can. Because the only thing more dangerous than a franchise quarterback with something to prove is one who already proved it, and you just finally figured it out. So what do the next few weeks look like? Fire. Shedeur's going to have to win. Not just on the scoreboard, but in the media, in the locker room, in the film room. He's going to have to deal with whispers that he got his coach fired, even though anyone with eyes can see Stfansky fired himself by refusing to adapt. He's going to have to lead a fractured roster through one of the most dramatic organizational shifts in modern Browns history. And he's going to have to do it all while still being himself. Because let's be honest, if Shedeur starts to shrink now, if he gets conservative to make other people comfortable, the whole house of cards collapses. But if he leans into his game, his swagger, his preparation, he can take this team somewhere it hasn't been in years. Belief. Not hope. Not hype. Belief. The kind that sticks. The kind that outlasts front office reshuffles and coaching exits. The kind that makes the NFL take you seriously. So here's the real headline if we're being honest. Andrew Barry didn't just fire a coach. He planted a flag. And written on that flag? Shedeur Sanders is the guy. The future is already on the field. This is no longer about potential. It's not about development. It's not even about narrative. This is about control. And when Andrew Barry fired Kevin Stfansky over internal comments about Shedeur Sanders, he wasn't just making a football decision. He was making a philosophical statement. That in this version of the Cleveland Browns? We bet on the player, not the system. We bet on what's working, not what's comfortable. We bet on Shedeur. You could feel it the moment the news broke. The tension that had been building since training camp, simmering in every media question, every eye roll between the lines at practice, every "we're evaluating week-to-week" press conference, snapped. The dam burst. Fans took to social media like they'd been waiting for the head to roll. Players reposted cryptic quotes, loyalty, truth, pressure makes diamonds kind of stuff. Local radio shows turned into impromptu therapy sessions. And deep inside Berea, behind all the controlled messaging and rapid response PR cycles, you know there was one unspoken reaction echoing through that building. Finally. Because whether or not anyone had the guts to say it before, they all knew. Shedeur Sanders was ready. He'd been ready. The film said it. The numbers said it. The eye test? Screaming it. The only thing standing between Shedeur and full franchise control was a coach too caught up in his own blueprint to recognize he had a generational blueprint standing in front of him with a helmet on. Let's not romanticize what this was. This wasn't just a bad coaching fit. This wasn't just Stfansky being cautious. This was a very specific, very deliberate attempt to marginalize a quarterback because he didn't look, sound, or play the way the system was designed to accommodate. And maybe that would have flown 10 years ago. But not now. Not in an NFL where Patrick Mahomes exists. Where Jalen Hurts flipped an entire franchise's identity. Where Lamar Jackson turned an entire system on its head and made it work. Where CJ Stroud is out here dismantling defenses with surgical precision and a chip on his shoulder the size of Ohio. The era of the quarterback conforming to the coach is over. And if you don't get that as a head coach in 2025, you're not getting another headset. Let's talk about what Shedeur's actually doing to this franchise. Because it's easy to get swept up in the headlines, the forced apology, the tension with Gabriel, the media frenzy, but watch the tape. The kid processes faster than half the league. He's not just checking into the right looks, he's reading coverage pre-snap like a vet. He's manipulating safeties with his eyes. He's putting the ball where only his guy can get it. He's throwing with timing, touch, and trust, all things you can't fake. And you know what he's not doing? Forcing anything. There's no desperation. No panic. No, I have to prove something energy. He plays like a guy who's been here before, because in his own way he has. Growing up with Shedeur Sanders as your father means the lights are always on. The cameras are always rolling. You learn fast that attention is either a spotlight or a trap. You learn how to stay poised. You learn how to perform when everyone's watching. And Shedeur? He's been learning since birth. So now, when he steps into the huddle of an NFL team that finally decided to stop resisting and start building around him, it's not some fairy tale. It's inevitable. This moment, this takeover, isn't surprising. It's overdue. And for Andrew Berry to not just acknowledge that, but clear the roadblocks so it can actually happen? That's leadership. Let's not pretend Berry hasn't made mistakes. He's had his share of head-scratchers. He's watched talent slip through the cracks. But this was the best executive decision the Browns have made in years. Because instead of riding the dysfunction train until the wheels flew off again, he cut the brakes. He ripped out the rot. He said, "This is our guy. Not in a year. Not if he earns it. Right now." And here's the most important part. Now the Browns have no more excuses. They've picked a direction. Chosen a star. Removed the resistance. Now it's about results. So what does Shedeur have to do next? Exactly what he's already doing. Keep the locker room united. Keep the offense calm. Keep the focus on football even when the noise is deafening. Because if he can do that, if he can keep this ship sailing straight through the storm they just created, he won't just be the quarterback of the Browns. He'll be the culture. That's the difference between good quarterbacks and great ones. Anyone can lead a comeback drive. Anyone can have a big arm and some flashy stats. But very few can walk into a room full of grown men, some older than him, some with bigger contracts, and make them believe. And Shedeur? He already has. You don't fire your head coach unless the room is already siding with the player. That's how powerful this moment is. And yet, there will be doubters. Always. Critics who say this was too soon. That Shedeur's only had a few good games. That firing a coach mid-season over player-coach tension sets a bad precedent. To them I say, where were you when the Browns kept recycling mediocrity year after year? Where were you when good quarterbacks were ruined by bad systems? When talent was wasted for the sake of structure? When fans begged for change and got more of the same? Because now they're doing it differently. Now they're betting on instinct, on truth, on talent that speaks for itself, not talent that needs a 10-minute justification segment on ESPN. And if that scares the old guard, it should. Because this isn't just a shift in quarterback philosophy. This is a reset of what Cleveland football even means. It's no longer the land of washed-up vets and wasted draft picks. It's not where good players go to fade quietly. It's not where promise is ignored because it doesn't check the system fit box. It's where one quarterback, with confidence, poise, and vision, walked into a deeply broken culture and took over. With no drama. No ego. Just results. So the next time someone tells you Shedeur Sanders is too much brand, or too media savvy, or too connected to his name, just show them the scoreboard. Show them the locker room. Show them the man who got a coach fired without ever raising his voice. Because in this new NFL, you don't need to scream to be heard. You just need to be undeniable. And Shedeur? He already is. Drop your takes in the comments. Was this the right call? Did Barry act too fast or finally fast enough? And what's next for the Browns now that the future is officially in charge? Subscribe because this isn't just a quarterback story. It's a franchise rebirth. And in Cleveland? For the first time in forever, thrill.